Tukatalks is the show where fashion industry experts share real-world knowledge gained through hands-on experience. Hosted by Ram Sareen, the founder of Tukatalks.
Greetings from Tukatalks. This is the first session after COVID-19 that we are doing in our own studio. I am very happy that I am vaccinated and my guest is vaccinated. Probably because they think we are very experienced people. No, not age, experienced. I have to share a little story with you guys before I introduce my guest. A project report was submitted. It was a project with, let's say, $10 million. In that project, $7.5 million was hardware and $2.5 million was software. The owner of that industry looked at the entire project report. For every hardware, there was a picture of machinery, there was a reference to that, there was a diagram and so on. But when it came to software side, all he saw was just some numbers and some graphs and so on. So he called his assistant. He said, I understand what is hardware. That's $7.5 million. What the hell is software? $2.5 million. Now, those of you who understand Hinduism, because the story revolves around India. I'm from India, so I could resonate with that. This person knew how to explain to the big boss. He said, sir, in industry or in life, there are two things. One is, look at us. We have a body. That is the hardware. And then we have the soul. That is the software. You can't see the soul, but without the soul, the body won't run. In 5 minutes, the signatures were done. Sometimes you have to understand the value of knowledge. The value of knowledge is not something that you can document it. You've got to earn it. You've got to learn it. You've got to listen to it. Today, I'm very proud to have my dear friend, my neighbor for last 30 years, and my confidant in a lot of areas. Now, if I read you her background, she's UK educated. She has designed for the King of Brunei, Royal House of Brunei. She's designed 2 lines for Priscilla Presley, which were on the Home Shopping Club for 2 years. She has taught at Otis. She is even consulting to United Nations for countries like Peru and Nepal and Egypt now. She's an author of an amazing book called Fashion for Profit. And I think I can at least count on hundreds and hundreds of Californians only who are the startups on your book. Frances Harder. She created a new product called FBI, a real catchy name. So talk about marketing genius, FBI in America. Everybody wants to know what is Fashion Business Incubator. Frances Harder. I'm so glad that you were able to join me.
Thank you, Ram. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. It's nice to get out.
Exactly. Frances, what motivated you to start FBI?
Well, I was, after many years of teaching and also being in business and also working in the industry, I realized that the educational system was not including business. And so I'd see, and I also experienced it having run my own business twice, that if you didn't understand how to put a cost sheet together, then you're going to be in big trouble. And really, it's the business of fashion. So it motivated me to start a class for Otis, and it was on their evening class, further education class. And from that, it motivated me to write my book, Fashion for Profit, which, as a dyslexic, was, thank God for spell check. Talk about software. So,
believe it or not, I have one copy of the original one. This is the latest one, Fashion for Profit. But right next to that is my original one. And I've gone through that.
That's the first.
That's the first one, okay? My point is very simple. It is sold in every fashion bookstore. But at the same time, whether it is the channels for whatever, for where the books are sold, I very highly recommend, because I've seen people rave about what they learned from here. I've attended some of your seminars, especially at a time like now when we have so much uncertainty. So many new business models are coming up. So many old timers are stale and going under. I feel there's an opportunity for young ones, or even the ones who want to change.
Mm-hmm.
What should they be looking at?
You're absolutely on mark. And I've talked about this and written articles about the fact that for new companies now, it's actually a good time because the whole industry, as you know, is upside down. So new companies can start, and they can start selling online. They can do small runs, because the big guys, as we know, the big department stores, they're closing up, or they're struggling to survive. And so the whole thing, and especially now working with my Indian manufacturers, is you won't get those big orders anymore. You've got to adjust to smaller orders more often, which means for the new companies, that's great. And also, we're all looking to bring production back, right? Smaller orders, let's make them domestically. The bad part to that is, unfortunately, no one's invested in the industry. So you've still got this old infrastructure downtown in the fashion district. You can hardly get a truck down the back alleys. You know, you've got factories. I mean, we know, of course, Dove is very successful in what he's doing. And hats off to what he has achieved, much to your help as well. So I just think it's an exciting time. I don't think it's a downtime. It's just a change time. And we need to adjust to that time. And I think for new companies, it's a really good time to start.
Tell me, from the education side, my thinking is a little different, and I think you and I are pretty aligned on that. You wrote the book, What You Saw Fashion Universities Not Teaching or Wasting Time. I strongly believe that there are so many fashion universities, they have not updated their curriculum.
Oh, yeah. This is my big thing. Yeah, absolutely. I've written an article about this, the fact that in a way we need to go back to apprenticeships. Short-term training, certified, get out, do some work, come back at the same time, like you do with an apprenticeship program. You know, if you look at these typical colleges, and they're coming out of debt after 4 years of $250,000, right? You can't even get a job, particularly now. I mean, I'm trying to help. I'm on the advisory board with another number of colleges, as you are as well. And I feel for these young people. And I know myself when I taught that there was a resistance within these colleges, these further education places. They don't want to change because it's a problem. So if you, and I won't say which college, but I tried to make changes, and I suggested, implementing changes. And there were other teachers and professors there who did not like that. I was stirring up the poop, So I agree with you. It needs to be rethought. I think the industry is amazing, but it's exciting industry. But the colleges and the universities have not adjusted to the changes.
How can that be done? I know the faculties, so many of them are old timers. So many of them are kind of set in their own ways, based on their own training. Now, you're right, because both of us sit on so many different boards of different colleges. I think I have changed in a lot of colleges to start doing certain things. Today, even high schools teach with technology. I'm talking global education system, because fashion industry, regardless of the size of your enterprise, the steps are always the same. Somebody has to think about a design. Somebody has to communicate that to either a pattern maker, or if you're a pattern maker, you're going to make a pattern. You're going to cut a sample, sew a sample, show it to the designer. Designer may or may not like it. Go back to the drawing board, make the changes. By the time all this is going on, the meter is running. It's fashion business. If you're not in time and you catch it towards down, it's a garbage, right? Your expenses are going up, cost of materials, cost of people, cost of resources. And then you find out only in the end what the garment is going to look like. That's what you wanted to show. So the learnings come from what happened in the other industries. Marketing, advertising agencies. What happened to them? There was a huge budgets. Somebody would come up with a print ad coming in. We had to come up with a concept. Somebody had to try to picture what the thing would look like. Somebody would draw the things. Then we would go find an actor or actress or a person to be shot, a location to be decided, a camera crew. Now I'm explaining all this because these exact steps we do today in our fashion industry. A lot of them before we get to see that picture with the perfect light. Sometimes that is not correct. We reshoot and so on till we get that right. And then when we bring it back to the guy whose brand it was, nah, I don't like that concept. That happens all the time, right?
Right.
What happened to all those people today? Just go to Google. I want a girl at the beach wearing stripes. You'll have images after images after images. You can buy the images. Bring into Photoshop, add your things. In 20 minutes later, you can have the ad. 15 different versions. Which one do you like? We simplified. If somebody is not learning from these things, why? Why are we making the same denim pant or a t-shirt or a shirt pattern? We're putting all these tech packs and measurement chart and instructions and so on, employing hundreds of people, spending thousands of dollars and putting the samples out there. Didn't we make this shirt 55 different ways? Don't we have some kind of IP on that? I predicted in 2019 that by 2022, it's only a year and a half left or 2 years left, there'll be no more pattern makers. There'll be patterns, templates available on the internet for free. There'll be pattern alteration people with knowledge. Maybe colleges need to teach how to manipulate to create a new style line. Not trying to create the fit. The fit is already done. The pattern is balanced. Nobody's going to make paper patterns. So teach them the principles of pattern making.
Or you give them, like you do, you give them the blocks of the shirts, the pants, the jackets, whatever, and you teach them how to adjust it.
Right.
I mean, I've seen so many. I had one startup company. She spent $54,000. She was a banker and she wanted to do suits for women, which were a little bit more, sort of a little bit more contemporary. So she went out and spent $54,000. She found us and said, "Oh, Frances, can I show you my products before I launch it?" She rolled it into the FBI and I was like, oh God, I didn't know. In my mind, it was like, how am I going to tell her? The sleeves were like this, the collars weren't even busted open. they were sandwiched in between. You know, when you, and she had no idea. She had this idea, but she'd gone to somebody who told them, and this is another thing that I think should be stressed in the industry. There are a lot of people who are fantastic in the industry, but there are a lot of people who say they can do things, but they're full of the BS. So please check them out. Make sure you verify who they are. Don't take it for granted that if you're looking for a pattern maker and somebody to do your sampling and your production, check them out. There are things you need to do. Take the time to find out, do they have the relative licenses? Make sure that they are able to do it and they're doing it the way you want it to be done. I can't tell you, Ram, how many I see. There's a guy up near us. He's doing a jacket and he went to somebody. It's so scary how much money he put into it, for over 50,000 into this tailored jacket. And he came to see me and he said, I was like, well, what do you think? He said, I know it's not right. I said, no, it's not. So found him a way to go. He's very happy now. He's had them remade. He's ready for the photo shoot. And, you know, we're launching. But it's, again, so many people I got ripped off. I had a line of clothing for children and I had it in the Mart downtown. And then the reps there said, oh, we want duplicates made for your showroom in New York. She said, it's really selling well. I just started. It was my first line. And so anyway, I didn't hear anything. Got all these off to her, had ran around. Always remember driving to the contractor and thinking, I'm going to make it. And then I didn't hear anything. So I thought, that's weird. I have a friend who's a designer in New York. And I said, Kathy, can you go and check on it? She said, yeah, okay. So she called me up in the evening. She said, well, your garments were there on the front window, but not with your label in it. So they cut my label out and given it to somebody else that they'd been working with for many years, who they knew could perform it and could do it. And what do? Okay? I could have sued her, but it was the time that my daughter, who was 7 at the time, came down with type 1 diabetes. So I just had to switch everything off and move on, just keep on moving. And all I can say is, there is karma. 10 years later, I'm reading the apparel news. This woman's going into the Harrods, and apparently she had tight leggings on, and they were a little too tight, and you could see the skin beneath with her Louis Vuitton bag. And they said to her, I'm sorry, madam, but you're not dressed appropriately. So I'm reading this in the apparel news. And it was so funny. It had to be Harrods, but, you know, sometimes you just have to let it go. Move on, like you've said before, and find your right niche. I mean, I'm revolving.
I hear so many horror stories.
Oh, yeah.
I've had people who have come in and say, I want to start a made-to-measure denim company. I've already hired a person who has made me the pattern and da-da-da-da-da. And we put that on the 3D and see that the garment doesn't fit at all. I said, this doesn't fit. He said, no. The garment, he did that. It fits very well, okay? I said, where do you have the pattern and the garment? The pattern and the garment were two different things. I don't know where the guy got the garment from, but that pattern did not make that garment.
Weird.
Okay? Ask the person. He said, no, I paid $5,000. Does he have grading? No. Grading is not there. My point is, we hear this horror stories at so many of our customers. In 1990, there was a conference here in Los Angeles. Ilsa Metchek, Molly Rhodes, Bobby Hines, all the guys that you and I know, or the industry people, the Ministry of Commerce and so on. We were looking at the future of garment industry in California. California at that time had acute shortage of pattern makers. There used to be almost like an auction for the pattern makers. Somebody's paying $1,200 a week. Another person offered $1,400 a week. The guy said, I don't want to pay another $200 a week. Let her go. 3 weeks later, you find out, oh my God, she was a good pattern maker. Okay, can you bring her back? No, she doesn't want to come back. Or offer another $200. So now, within 4 weeks, she has gone from $1,200 a week to $1,600 a week. That was in 1990. because it was the same number of people who were being shunted from one company to the other because no college was teaching, because all these colleges were so busy teaching paper patterns, paper pattern making. It is the responsibility of the colleges to look at where is the shortage and what do I need to pump out, which is going to give me the name and the students a job. All these big colleges, and I don't want to name anybody, but the students coming out with $250,000 loans couldn't find a $40,000 a year job because they wanted to be the designer. While the pattern maker who didn't speak English was driving a Mercedes-Benz. When you tell these fashion schools, teach them bloody pattern making skills. Oh no, they're not going to be pattern makers. Oh yes. If they don't know pattern making, they don't know anything about garment industry. If I don't know how to do it, what is wrong with it, and how to fix it, I have no business being in this business. Period. A designer is not sketching. You should be able to see if the garment is balanced. How is that garment going to go over the sleeve and shoulders? Where is the ease? What do I have to put in? What fabric behavior? Are you teaching all this to the students? I'm picking on the colleges today. I'm in a bad mood today about the colleges.
Well, I get it.
No, I very strongly believe that time is ticking.
Yeah.
Colleges have extreme responsibility to pivot. I'm a mechanical engineer. Today is 4 years in university. In my days, it was 5 years. What you studied in year 1 and year 2 and year 3 and year 4 and year 5 stayed with for a long time in my times. Today, 4 years, what you learned in first year is obsolete in the second year. You're learning something different. Obsolete. And this is what you learned. But you have the basic understanding of these 3 things. You've got to stay completely focused with what things are changing, how things are impacting what technology is doing. If you're not opening that, I'm sorry, you're going to be out of business.
Absolutely true.
Bring people from the industry to be on the board, to share with you. Bring technology people, bring industry consultants to tell you what is required by the industry so you can fulfill that need. If you can't fulfill that need, then all you're doing is wasting the students' time. And if the students are listening, I want all you students to go back to your college and say, what you're teaching me, how is that going to help me in the garment industry, in the fashion industry? Sorry, okay, we diverted. I just had to get the steam out of my head.
No, it's actually...
I want to be on the positive side also. In the last, I think, 4 or 5 months, I've been a keynote speaker at 3 different universities, multiple campuses around the world. And the last one, which was very interesting, was a 1-week conference between all fashion schools and textile universities in Asia to look at what should be the curriculum. So North America and Europe, if you're listening, you be very careful. We already have, in shoe industry, almost nothing going on in this part of the world. In fashion, we've already outsourced. And they are the one who are adding the value by making their patterns, the fit, because all we do is sketch. If you're not teaching the right things and not changing, instead of people spending $250,000 at your university, they're going to start going to India and Bangladesh and Pakistan and Sri Lanka to study. They have better programs. I mean that, better programs. So this is a wake-up call.
I agree. It's got to change. And, this thing about, as you say, the designer, mostly now it's about merchandising, really. I mean, what is the trend? We're all wearing anything we want, really. And so it was going like that way anyway. And when the pandemic hit, it just accelerated. So we're all in sweatshirts and T-shirts, and, women aren't being dictated to. You're going to wear hot pants and a mini skirt. We wear what we want to wear, which I think is rather liberating, actually. But when it comes to education and that, giving them, okay, you've got some red silk here, design a red carpet dress or whatever it is you want to do, you've got to be realistic and find out what it is that's selling now and how and who is buying it. What are the demographics? That's another thing about America, is the demographics in America are so different and varied, and you'll know that better than anyone. Is, if you're designing for California, it's very different than designing, say, for Florida or for Texas. And when I was designing, the buyers would come in and say, well, we've got to think about Dallas and Florida, and say, well, okay, we better add some pink and bling, right? So you always adjust to whatever the demographics are. And it's same like if you're thinking about selling to Seattle or Colorado. New York is more formal. But we're still sort of watered it all down to a much more informal way of life, of course. And we're all seeing that. And if you're Zooming, you probably put a new top on and keep your sweatpants on. But
you're saying in so many words exactly what I feel is going to be. Very centralized, very focused, small supply chain. Even in a country like India, the colors that sell in South India do not sell in North India. Mm-hmm. Same products. The preferences are different. So whether it's a climate or demographics or shape of the people, size of the people, whatever it is, it's easier to focus on one segment rather than trying to be best for everything. Consumer today is very, very, very confused. For us to start confusing that consumer further, first we have to understand what their thinking process is. Those were the days when the brand name attracted people. The next generation doesn't give a damn.
No.
Their priorities are different.
Well, they're also, I think, the younger generation, I'm not sure, your experience, but from my experience, a lot of them are into buying secondhand, recycle. My daughter-in-law, who's 26, she comes over from Maui and goes shopping for the day in all the Goodwill places and secondhand stores, and comes back with her 2 big bags and say, okay, I'm set for the year. And so she's very much into this sort of conserving in everything. And when you think about the landfills full of clothing, so I think this is the new way of considering what about sustainability? What about all those clothes that are going nowhere? When you think about the big brands who wouldn't give their clothing with the labels on to poorer countries because they didn't want to dilute their brand. And as you said earlier on, the branding thing, you're not walking around with a great big brand on yourself anymore. Thank goodness that's gone by. I mean, I used to say to my students, why are you walking around advertising for another designer? You are the designer. You are the person. You create your brand. And they've just been writing this for the industry, for the Egyptian group who are doing cut and sew. I said, you're still, they kept saying, but we're not a brand. I said, you are a brand. Whatever you do, how you perform, how you deliver is about your brand. You're telling a story about who you are, whether you're reliable or not. That becomes your brand, and people will come to recognize you and want to come back and buy from you. And it's the same with just going to personalities. Everybody, we are our own brand. So when it comes to clothing, nobody wants to walk around in a big uniform, dressed from head to foot in Louis Vuitton or whatever. I mean, it's just passé, isn't it?
Those were the days when you had to show that I could afford it. Mm. The younger people today, they don't have that.
No.
We talked about in one of my Tukatalks, circular economy. So this is one of the circular economy parts. Rental of the clothing was another one. If I'm going to wear it only once for a prom or for a party or for an evening, it doesn't have to be clothes. It could be shoes. It could be purses. It could be accessories. It could be jewelry for that matter. Question now is am I going to block that much money that I'm going to wear it once or twice? Or am I just going to spend a portion of that, let somebody else have the jollies with that?
Absolutely.
There are businesses out there which are doing phenomenal. Even the stores are now offering, but
Returns.
there are some, no, they're offering trade-ins.
Oh yeah, I know. Big brands are. I
Yes,
love it.
yeah.
And when they resell them, like people are turning in clothing from 20 years ago with a brand on it, and they're selling for more money than they were originally paid for it.
Right.
So it's very interesting, and I think it's a really good option to thinking about recycling or upcycling.
What does that mean for the industry?
Well, it's a
The
little
manufacturing
scary. It's
industry.
a little scary. Yeah.
In 2018, I mentioned in my presentation that by 2023, 5 years, we'll be producing 40% less garments. I know there was an uproar. This was in Bangladesh. And my numbers were there to show all these big 10, 12 stores. Their numbers were showing 14 quarters in a row, the decline. Any person with half a brain could see where the graph is going. And those who were already out of business, that business wasn't picked up by the others. It's not that the 10 were selling 10, 2 of them go out, and now 8 are selling 10. No, 8 were still selling 8. Things don't change overnight. Unless it's pandemic like this. This was a global change.
Change is inevitable.
Change is constant. Growth is optional. That's my mantra for the last 45 years in the garment industry. I've been talking about this. Every slide of mine starts with that. Because I very strongly believe you don't change, change will change around you. You're going to be stuck right there, okay? In fashion, what is the constant? What do you say that this will always be?
Underwear.
Okay.
Shoes we need, right? We need to keep warm. So, I mean, clothes are here, but it's a matter of how many we really need and how much you're willing to think about the environment and how it's being produced. And if it's being produced sustainably, if it's being harvested as an organic, or is it being made? You know, this whole thing about what it's done to the world globally, the industry and how it's polluted it. I think we're all waking up to it, particularly the younger people. And then, as you said earlier on, you know, everybody's thinking about it as opposed to just buying, impulse buying. I mean, I used to say, okay, it's Sunday afternoon, I've worked all week, I'm going to buy a top, go up the hill, you know, which no shops there now anyway. I don't know if you've been up there recently, but there's about 2. So, you know, buy myself a top, go home, feel very good. My husband go, not another top. You know, so I'm thinking and trying to wear those cupboards full of tops. But it's a rethink. I think that women as a whole tended to buy clothing as a reward. Men, not so much. You probably can't get men into
stores. Is it reward or is it impulse?
It's an impulse, both. I think it makes you feel better. I don't know why. But I think we have to find new things to find and reward ourselves with.
So tell me, when you wrote this book, Fashion for Profit, what were the first 5 things were you looking for to add the value to the person who's reading it?
I'd say the biggest one was really costing a garment and understanding that you just don't design something and throw it out there. You've got to know exactly how much it costs, whether it's the interlining or whether it's the buttons, or how to put together and how to put together a line. How should the line be, or the groups within the line? How to do, if you're looking for money, you'll need a business plan. How to put a business plan together, where to go to get it. then the other thing is you're starting out, where do you source? Where do you get your fabrics? Where do you get your pattern making? Where do you go? So I have this, there's in the book, it's a sort of reference of places to go and where to look. And so those were the big things that a lot of people had an issue was with, how do you find the fabrics that you need? And how do you find the reliable sources? And then what are you going to do about finding a sales rep? Where do you find a sales rep? Of course, these days, you maybe don't need a sales rep. You're going to be selling B2C. So there's this whole new change in how the internet sales has changed the way of retailing. And it's actually good for you because your actual profit can be better because you haven't got that markup in between. You're not selling wholesale and the retailers are marking it up, so if you're selling it for 50, they're selling it for 120. So, you can sell it for 50. So there's a big change in how you can do business. So my book really motivated me out of my own experiences and my own experiences of seeing people, how they failed and seeing how it could be better and seeing how, as you said earlier on, the educational system does not prepare them. I was horrified with colleges when I'd see teachers teaching them how to do a cost sheet, or even talking about scanning in designs. So that was another big issue that one of my other jobs now is being an expert witness, and most of it's on copyright infringements. And so what happens is even the colleges tell them you can scan a design in, change it 30% and say it's yours. No, if it looks the same, it is. You're going to get sued. Don't get tempted with that. So there were many sort of lessons that I learned that I thought I can share this. And I'm adding another chapter on sustainability. And so, for a dyslexic, I do quite like to write.
Well, let me give you my point of view, my biggest takeaway in this book. Learning the terminology. Sometimes the shop talk is based on terminology. What is the binding? What is the lining? What is interlining? What is fusible? Right. So all these terminologies that you explain in the book is kind of a rapid education for people who are not from the industry, who did not go to the fashion school, but they need to know. That is what makes a difference. It's the little things that people kind of take it for granted because we're in the fashion industry. What about that kid or the person who doesn't know? Are they going to go, or, yeah, I know?
Well,
That's I know coming in from the book.
Some people come in with certain knowledge. They may have business, but they don't have the industry experience. Some people come in and go, oh, I've got this fabulous idea. And then you start to find out what the idea is. It's like, it's already out there. It's already done. And that's another thing, investing in things that it's already out there. You need to really think about what is it you're doing? Are you filling a niche? I'm working with one lady now she's got a great idea. I met her at Magic and she bought my books and she's done everything by the book. We're just going to do a Zoom drink when we launch her website in 2 weeks. So, there's these great examples of when people email me, I got your book and I just loved it. And I always say to people, if you get the business startup package, I'll give you half an hour free consultation. So a lot of times people will just say, what do you think? And I'm usually pretty honest about it, that it's maybe a good idea, but maybe it's not. And I'm sure you've also seen many ideas out there that are not. Right?
So, being in California, I can share hundreds and hundreds of experiences. But the one that I feel in the last 1 year that we've seen, so many people from different parts of their education or their professional career, lawyers, doctors. I've had MBAs who want to start the business. And so many of them will come in and we want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
And I say, for what? I'm sorry, I don't sign non-disclosure agreements.
Me too.
Because I'm in the business where we do fashion all day long.
You'd have to get everybody involved in the industry to sign one.
Hello, that's been there before you were born.
Yeah.
What is there for NDA in there? But they have come up with, the thing is, everybody has ideas. A little bit of knowledge sometimes helps. And a person like you is offering that. And that's what attracts people. And I very strongly salute you for that. Appreciate your contribution.
I enjoy
and having people get this knowledge, okay?
I always say we're here to make a difference. So
that's it.
I've had many people who've helped me, and I'm very grateful for them. So if I can help in any way, as you do too, you're a give back person. So it's very important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I see the book again one more time?
Sure.
This is the 10th one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just had it translated into
10th edition.
Spanish. It's in Spanish now as well as a Kindle.
Wow.
I've got a Chinese
Fashion
university
for profit. I'll tell you something, guys. If nothing else, you will learn what not to do. There's a lot of learnings there. The FBI had an amazing platform. Hundreds and hundreds of startup companies would come in, and Francis had made almost like a training center in every possible aspect that the colleges and universities did not teach you. So most of the students who came out came away from FBI as an entrepreneurs, or at least adding real value to the industry wherever they went in, okay? So I know a lot of them. So I speak with experience, okay? I'm very happy that you were able to join me. And I thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ram, for the opportunity. It's lovely to be here and actually to get downtown, get out of the house.
Right? I know. Thank you. Thank you for being the first one in this year after this COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes. Well, hopefully everybody will come through it fine.
I hope so too.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Watch full episodes and clips at tukatech.com/Tukatalks or listen on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Tukatalks YouTube channel and follow Tukatalks on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.